Good evening, Facebook friends, those who may be watching from YouTube. This is Warriors for Christ. We are here today. Myself, Damien, and Kia, my wife, may be joining us in a little bit. So today, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Sorry for not being on, having sessions these last couple weekends. I myself been, doing some side jobs and things like that, and I do most of that on weekends. So I apologize for not having podcasts the last couple of weeks. But we are here today. Once again, like I said, we're going to try our best to make every weekend, but sometimes, things come up. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing if men today want a Proverbs 31 woman. If you don't know what Proverbs 31 woman is, I suggest that you first of all read that when you get the chance. But it's particularly, I'll break it down as that it's I see it as a Proverbs 30 woman is a woman who is independent, yet she's still submissive to her husband, loves the family. She takes care of the household. But at the same time, she's just not home, just doing homely things. Like, she's just not in there, with her house apron on, cooking, cleaning. She's also a woman that's an entrepreneur, owns her own business, knows how to run her own business. And although she runs her own business, she brings in a lot of money to her house, but the money is not necessarily considered the husband's. Is part of the household funds. And at the same time, she knows how to handle her money. So the scripture goes into that. She's a woman that is not afraid of hard times. She's not afraid of evil. She's strong, and and on top of that, what mainly sticks out to me is even though she could do all those things, she still speaks well of her husband, because the people in the community speak well of her husband, and that comes from her having good words about her husband. So I advise you to go read that. If we were that type of channel, I would pull it up and I would go into detail. But we're not that type of channel, or we usually don't do that here. We would usually reserve that for like a Bible study or something like that. But if you want to read it while we're talking, feel free to do so. Feel free to ask those questions. So, do men today want that? And one of the first things that come to mind, before I let Kia go, is that being that a Proverbs 31 woman is very independent, will men today be afraid of that? That's one of the first things that come to my mind. Would they see that as a challenge, being that she's a woman that's independent, that can run her own business, and especially today, most women make more than men. When it comes to certain businesses and the industries and things like that, women today are actually more successful when it comes to like graduating college, getting bigger paying jobs, and so forth. Do that make men afraid? Do that intimidate men today? And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, or at least mention, to see what the women on our panel may be, Kier, and also my wife later on. Kier, anything to add to say?
I was going to say that the Proverbs 31 woman, though she was independent, she was still submissive. So I would think that a woman would not be, I would think that a man would not be intimidated by a submissive woman. I can't wait till Tiffany gets on here because she, I think, speaks about this topic in a little bit more detail and clarity than I do. But I wonder if the Proverbs 31 woman is just the example of, oh, there's Tiffany.
Oh, yay! He was just talking about you, saying that I'll let Kid say what you were saying.
No, but saying I feel like you speak in more clarity and more detail about this topic. But I think that she's like a compilation of like the ideal Christian woman, and maybe not a real woman. You know what I mean? Maybe not a real example. That was it. Take it away.
I actually wrote about this. So I broke out the book again. So hold on, y'all carry on.
Where did you write about this at?
It's in our book, Him, Her, and God.
Yeah, sorry about that. We have my son here, and it seems like he was asking a question. Yeah, so my wife actually did write a chapter about this in our book, Him, Her, and God. If you guys would like to, read that or check it out, no pressure. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, in a way, I feel that some men will get intimidated by a a woman that's very independent that can run a whole household. And at the same time, I wouldn't want a a girlfriend or a wife who, just sit home, cook, clean, and do that, that type of stuff all day. I know that's like, like what we see in old movies and films, and we talk about women being submissive. And to me, I just always saw this thought of it just being oppressive. You know what I mean? And I see people talk about that. You even see men talking about, like, I want a wife who stay home, cook, do this, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, well, to me, I would see her being oppressed and not being herself, being the things that she do what she want to do, be able to do things that she wants to achieve. And I was talking to a person about that. And I was like, you can tell that system was oppressive, especially when it came to things like women's rights, like just women not be able to do anything because all they was expected to do was stay home and take care of the kids. And I was like, well, we saw a whole era where women were trying to come out that oppressive state, especially at the turn of the 19th century and so forth. And I was just like, if that's how women felt then, you will also think women may feel some type of way about that, just being in the household as well. Go, Tiffany. I know you left because you
said before.
Sorry, what was that?
Damien, fill me in a little bit about what was said, so I know the context of what's been discussed already. I'm sorry, I was late coming in.
Yeah, so no problem. I was saying that I brought this. I wanted to talk about this topic just because I was talking to someone, and they was telling me that a wife should stay home, see to the house, teach to the children and all that. And I was like, well, women can do more than that. Women can be more than that. She own a business. She can do all those things, but still own a business. She can go after her own dreams, her own ventures, and so forth. So just by hearing that, hearing that this person was saying it, I was like, well, do men in general today, will they want that? Or would they be intimidated, by a wife or a spouse who can't run her own business and do her own things and actually bring in more income than him? Is that an intimidating person? Is that Proverbs 31, is she intimidating? And that's why I was kind of going at with that, or what I was kind of wanted to talk about.
Okay. So I have a few things to say about, I think, everything that you just said. One is, I think the idea of a stay-at-home mother, I think that is, here's my thoughts. I think it's ideal if a parent can be with a child when they're young. I think that is the ideal situation. I think the way that society is largely set up, that is very difficult for many families to do, just because of how things are set up economically. I think at the time that was more common, I think economically it was possible to support a family on one income, and it was possible because I think, like, I don't want to dive too much into too many different factors, but a minimum wage job could actually support your family. Years ago. Now, not so much. And I think that because of how society has evolved, that's a framework that you don't see very often within families anymore, having one person be the primary breadwinner, if you will. That being said, biblically, the Proverbs 31 says it's okay for the woman to go out there and make money. And we know in the scripture that the Proverbs 31 woman actually used her own money to plant a vineyard that her family was able to eat from and make money off of. We don't know if she made more than her husband. What mattered in that context is how she carried herself in regard to her husband. She still respected her husband as her head. I think, and that's evidenced by the other men in town thinking well of him. So she was a credit to her husband. She wasn't a discredit, if you will. And she made her own money. I believe, going back to what Kia said, I think the Proverbs 31 woman is an ideal. I think she is, as Kia said, kind of a compilation of the different qualities that one should look for in their spouse. If you're, in this case, from the perspective of the male, looking for a spouse, I think. But I don't think it is necessarily a thing where the woman is expected to be all these things. What it does say, though, is that it's okay if she makes her own money. It's a good thing to get up and look after your household and make sure everybody has what they need. And I think the emphasis here, too, is also, again, how she carried herself in respect to her husband. Her husband was still the man. People still were like, okay, if people see you, Damien, they'd be like, okay, they're not going to think that you're less of a man because hopefully how I carried myself in regard to you. Because I think that's important, because at the end of the day, no matter what money situation look like or whatever, you're the head. So anything that occurs financially or otherwise, I'm going to consult with you first because you're my head and I respect your position. And I think that is the key there. Sorry, the alarm is going off. If you can hear that in the background, I apologize. But I think that is the thing that we should think about in regard to the Proverbs 31 woman, is this ideal that the wife should be at home and only taking care of the household. That's not even evidenced in the scripture. She not only helped to take care of her household, but she also helped to contribute to the household financially. So I think maybe we need to look at this a bit differently than how it's presented. And I'm not saying it's wrong for the mom to be home with the children, but I think even in the midst of that, she could still be, have her own business, be doing things to bring income. And I think that's what Proverbs 31 also speaks to as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the wife should be contributing, and not just taking care of just children and cooking. You guys know we talk a lot about marriage in here on this channel. And one of the things that we mentioned is that when we go into marriage, Jesus always refer back to the first marriage, Adam and Eve. And then when if you look at Adam and Eve, it says that Eve was made to help Adam with the garden. And what was Adam doing in the garden? He was working. So she was helping with working, and not just, I would think working would be like tending the garden. That's what the scripture says. God put man in the garden to tend the garden, and that's a work, and she helped with that. So it wasn't just talking about just taking care of children. She was literally doing work, tending the garden. So I think, as time went on, it became this thing that, somehow women were less than men and couldn't do as much, and that men had to do everything. Where if you look at it, when men try to do everything, they're unable to do everything, because, Adam, the Lord said that he needs help. He needs a helpmate. He needs somebody to help him with this, help him produce this labor, help him to produce this fruit that he needs to grow. And so Eve was created, so the woman is able to do that. And when you read the Proverbs 31 women. It is. I mean, she has self-confidence because she has to be able to do all these things. She has others that work for her, and one of the things two things that really stood out is that she gets I think it's fruit, or she gets something from afar, like merchants, so she's getting stuff from other countries, other lands, so I mean she had to organize all this stuff to be able to get the product to her estate or to their estate. So that means she's able to she's great at organizational skills, she's great at talking, and on top of that, it says that she stays up during the night. And I kind of see that as two ways. One, she stays up late to get things done. And on top of that, she stays up. She's not afraid of evil, because night speaks of evil. So she's not afraid of night. She's not afraid when darkness comes. She's willing to continue working even though there's darkness around her. She's not afraid of the darkness. And obviously, as I said this, I was like, this is a good woman. This is a good spouse to have. Of course, O'Malley, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about my wife. My wife, she stays up late to get things done. I always come to her asking her about organizing things for me, because I got a lot of stuff going on. She's great at organizing all the things, whatever my mind is going at. She's great to put that together. And Proverbs talks about that. And I'm not, what's the word? I don't feel like it's a challenge to my authority. I just don't want her just home cooking and cleaning. I want her to do other stuff. I want her to live her life of ventures as well, thing that she wants to go after. Because if I just stick her in this bottle, I can just see a spouse becoming not necessarily depressed. I can't think of the word. Disgruntled, there'll be a lot of challenging going on because you're putting her in a bottle. She can't be herself. She can't be free. So when I see men say that or thinking that, I just be like, why would you just want that? Just because you're too lazy to cook for yourself, you're too lazy, you don't want to help with the child. And the scripture talks about that. The scripture talks about men should be helping with the child to help raise them. It's just not about leaving away for 8 hours and coming home and expecting everything to be done, and men just sit back and pay the bills and all that. No, that's not the way it should be. So when I heard the individual I was talking to help brought this conversation to light, I was just like, no, women should be able to do things and not just be home. I just see that would just cause problems in a relationship. Especially if that's all the wife. If the spouse chooses that, that's fine. But I still think she should be able to do other things that she wants to do in life and not put herself in a box. You have anything to say, Tiff?
Yes. Just to add a little bit of balance to that too. Going outside the home to work is not the only work. And for those who are stay-at-home parents, being at home with the kids all day and tending to the household and tending to the children, that's a job. And that is something that more frequently than not, we have to outsource because we have to, both parties typically have to go out there to the workforce. But that's a job. And it's a job that is not paid. There was some statistic, and I can't remember exactly, but if a stay-at-home parent, and I say parent because sometimes we have stay-at-home dads too, if a stay-at-home parent was paid for their labor, they would probably make more than the spouse is probably out there working, just based upon their hours. They're not working 8 hours and clocking out. That kid is there 24/7, except for when they become, get school age or whatever. So I think it's important that we consider all the many different factors. Back in the day when having one parent at home, typically the mother, I think that's good for the children. I definitely, I think that's a cool structure. But then what happens when those kids grow up? What happens when those kids go to school? I think it's okay for all aspects of a person to be developed. And I think, Proverbs 31 also demonstrates that too. She was probably the primary caretaker for the children, looking at the scripture, but she was also into many different other things too. And I think all of that is important as well. I mean, I don't know. I just think that women are able to contribute much more than just progeny, kids and care. We are capable of so much, Damien, just as you were talking about me helping you to organize, um, how to, get things in order. All of us have different skills and talents. And then sometimes it's the man that's better at those things than the woman. So I think in general, when you come into a relationship, um, your spouse is there to balance you out and to fill in those spaces where you might be weak, and to strengthen those areas as well. So I just wanted to add that balance too, not to make it seem like a stay-at-home parent isn't working, because they are very much so, and their work can be just as challenging as someone outside of the home, depending on how many children they have, what they're dealing with, all of those things. So it's still work. It's just unpaid work that's probably as valuable to the
Yes.
family as the person that's going out.
Yeah, and you know, I was looking. Look while I'm talking. I'm trying to look. There's a verse that says, "The people of the town speak well of the house. Speak well of the husband, and they speak well of the husband because they see what the wife is doing, but yet the wife is still um, respective of her husband, and submissive to her husband. And once again, submissive doesn't mean just being a servant. Just submissive mean like she's there to support her husband. And to me, that's a good thing. Like the community is speaking well because they see how the household is ran, and it's just the husband is just not just lording over her, controlling her. He's allowing her to do what she's good at. Like I said, in this Proverbs 31 woman, she's able to get merchandise from afar. I mean, you gotta think about it. Like just trying to, it's easy for us today to go online, order something, have it shipped to your house. When this was written, it was word of mouth. You have to know when a ship was coming in, what was going to be on that ship. What were you going to get off that ship, and then once the ship came, you have to get the merchandise off the ship and then organize it to have it, brought to wherever you want to be at. And so that means you have to have animal, horse, wagon, all that to bring the ship. Sorry, to bring the shipment to where you need it. That took a lot of skill. That took a lot of just time and putting things together. And for a man to be intimidated by that, that's crazy. And I do know men, that would be intimidated by that, because they want the wife to be submissive to them, make less than them. They can't do anything, the woman has to stay in her place. And, people even preach that, that a woman can't work. Her role is in the house. I mean, in a way that's true, but there's a lot more to that. And, people shouldn't put women in a box, and I think this Proverbs 31 shows that she's not in a box. She has freedom, but even though she has this freedom, she continues to lift up her husband's name, and encourage him, in his doing. But it talks about how everything that she's doing is with her own money. So she made her own money, and then she invested herself to increase her business, and then that money that she gets from that increasing of investing, she is using that in her household. So she's making money somehow, and then when she's getting that money, she invests that money into the merchandise that she's buying from afar, and that increases their household even more. She's not going to her husband, or she's just not using her husband's money. She's making her own money to begin with, and then reinvesting in herself and making even more money. So people are trying to say, well, to do something, she got to take her her money from her husband? Not necessarily. You know, women have a brain too. They have talents too. They can get money themselves. And once again, it's just not about a money thing. But I know that's a big problem with a lot of relationships today. It's always about the money. Who should make the most money? I mean, statistically, women make more than men today on most jobs. You know, unless it's something like a physical labor.
Educated.
Yeah, statistically, women are more educated. Go to no, that's fine. No. Yeah, that's something I think I said earlier. So if they're more educated, that means they're gonna be in more, jobs, positions that require education. And of course, way back in the day, most people didn't go to school. So there were a lot of manual labor jobs, farm jobs. People had their own farms, so everything was manual labor. So it makes sense that more men brought in the money because everything for the most part was manual jobs. You have to use muscle, backbone. Not saying women can do that, but that's what made it easier for the men to bring the money in the house because that's what most jobs require. But now as things are changing, everything's becoming more intellect. Office jobs, once again, it requires organizational skills, and that could be one reason why you see a lot more women in places in positions where there's a lot of organizing take place. I'm not saying men can't do it, but I think women are exceptionally well at organizing. That could have been Adam's problem. He probably couldn't organize the garden as well. So the Lord was like, he needs some help with this garden because he's planting this stuff in the wrong spot. Let's get him to help me. But on top of that, this Proverbs 31 woman is uplifting her husband. So the husband has his ventures. The wife has her ventures, but she's also using her ventures to help the husband do what he wants as well. Through the finances, he's able to do what he needs to do. He may want to start his business or so forth, but she's using her money to help him. So, I just wanted to, like I said, that's the main reason. You got any more points? Because I feel like I'm kind of rambling.
I was just waiting for you to finish. I think if just to kind of bring all those different points home, I think it's important to remember, like you said, the original design for marriage. And that was the two of them working together towards a common goal. The woman was made to help the man and to help him, including in labor as well. I think that was the original design biblically for marriage. And nowhere in that, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't say, it points to women also being co-laborers as well. Now, whatever that labor is may be different depending on the particular marriage, what things she winds up taking on, right? But she's still going to be a co-laborer and a partner with her husband. And I think that is important to remember, that original biblical design, because regardless of who makes what financially, who does what in the house, everything should come back to that. And the scripture doesn't speak to who should make more. Now, what it does say is that the man is the head, and that one of the tasks there is helping to provide for the family as well. But I don't feel like that means that he's the sole person helping to do those things too as well. And Damien, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there scripturally. But I think a woman especially, will wear herself out trying to do everything that the Proverbs 31 woman does, because I don't know if that's realistic for every person. But what that does speak to is ideal characteristics in a wife, who she is, how she represents her husband, how she represents her home, who she is as a person. That scripture also speaks to how she is with other people, the poor. She was altruistic. So, she was giving to other people too. So that's speaking more to the character of a person than necessarily a to-do list of all the things that she's expected to do as a woman. And I think people need to remember that. I think as long as you remember that, then you won't feel intimidated or overwhelmed by that, what can be interpreted as a laundry list of things that you have to do. If you're not able to do all those things, if all those things are not in your wheelhouse, that does not make you less of a woman, does not make you less of a wife,
Right.
it does not make you less of a good partner. And I think that's also very important, because some people push that as being like the measure, and it's not the measure. It's not the measure. These are ideals. This is not a laundry list. Like this, and this in order to, be considered, a good wife in God's eyes. No, that's not what this was meant to be. And I think I really want to encourage people to kind of like change their thinking on that, because you'll wear yourself out trying to be all those things. I can unequivocally tell you I do not check off all those boxes, but I can also tell you that I am a good wife. So, and I'm not saying that like arrogantly at all, but I know that I'm a good partner to you. But I think that's what's important as a wife. Like, you have to, are you a good partner? And what that means for you and your husband is going to be different from couple to couple.
Yeah. I was while you were talking, I was just looking at, some of the words that the scripture use. And Proverbs 31:15, it says that the wife gives meat to a husband, but, I was thinking like, man, the husband probably didn't go out and hunt this meat herself. So, I mean, she purchased the meat, brought it to him, but there's a different lot of meanings for the word giveth. It means to add, apply, appoint, ascribe, but it also can mean to heal. So, so the wife does things to help heal her husband. Once again, she's his helpmate. She's aiding and healing him, in things that he may be lacking. She's there to support him. It is so many different ways that you can take this passage. And then once again, she's not a woman that's afraid of the night, or she's not afraid to stay up during the night. So that means if she stay up there during the night, she's not afraid of darkness. So her husband must have supported her enough to encourage her to stay up during the night, to be able to willing to fight. She may not necessarily got it for her husband. She got it from somewhere that she's strong enough to stay up during the night, to get things done. Even when darkness is coming, she's not running from it. She's facing it head on. These are all good things. And if her husband would have put her in a box and say, "Oh no, you need to be asleep at this certain time so you can get up when the kids get up," she would be able to accomplish those things. And if she can't accomplish those things, all the things that's aiding him, such as meat, she wouldn't be able to help provide for to provide those things. So I myself am not intimidated by this. I if anything, this encouraged me to like, man, this is what a wife's supposed to do. And if anything, it makes me looking like, oh, I should be, encourage my wife to do these things. I do encourage my wife a lot to do a thing, but like in certain aspects regarding the scripture, I'd be like, oh no, what about this? We do this, push for this. That I think that's what the husband should do, because ultimately, if the husband treats her respectfully, she'll be willing to be submissive and bring those things back into the household for the children, and also for the husband. So I encourage you, if you have not read, please go read Proverbs 31, the entire passage. Yes, it talks about women or the wife for a most part, but it also talks about men as well. So both men and women should look at this. Couples should look at this and be encouraged by it. This is not 1950s. The whole idea of this, the women staying in the house, taking care of the child, and feeding the husband. To me, that has been going on. That went on for so long that people believe that was truth only, and I don't necessarily think that's true. Because in the Proverbs, it also talks about how she has helped me. She has people to help her. So, she makes enough money that she can hire. She may hire a tutor to take care of the kids while she does other things. She may hire individual to take the kids to school. You know, all these different things that typically one person would do, the wife would probably do, but now she can have someone else do that. She can afford to have someone else do that and still take on other adventures. So, not 1950. This is, not the 1700s. Like, to me, all that was. I'm not saying it was wrong. It was used such in a way that it put women in a box, which eventually made it such a way where women's voices couldn't even be heard or spoken. Men, women weren't allowed to speak in the presence of other men. Like, what? That's to me, that's that's ridiculous. Once again, I think a wife should hold a place when men start having a conversation, just as if the wife is in a conversation, the man may not hold his tongue to make sure that he can speak properly when he does speak. So it all comes down to listening and when to know and when to knowing that you have no opportune time to say something and not speak out of turn. I just think that the last few centuries put women in a box. That's why when the 19th century came around, the 20th century came around, women were fighting for basic things because they've been belittled so long. The ability to vote. They were seen as citizens, but they still couldn't vote. They couldn't work on certain jobs. That shows that the women were being controlled and not looked at as being a helper.
Hey, Damien.
Yes.
Can you hear me? I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes, I can hear you.
To your page, I wanted to share, and I don't see that you're sharing on Facebook.
Yeah, for some reason it is not streaming, so I was just like, I just kept talking, and hopefully it posts later. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what happened. So,
okay.
But anyway, guys, do you have anything else you want to add, Tiff?
No, I think that's about it. I think really look into the scripture and don't let it become a to-do list, but just do your best. Honestly, and I'm speaking from a Christian perspective, of course, if you do your best to be a good Christian, and I mean to have a relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ, then you're going to check off a lot of these things on the box anyway. You're going to be productive. You're going to be a good helpmate to your husband. I think in serving God, that will allow you in submitting to God, it won't be a problem to also submit to your husband. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to making sure that your relationship with the Father is intact and is strong. And all the other things will flow out of that. And those are my closing statements.
I agree. So to go along with ending, as my wife was saying, is that men should be men, but we should not hinder our spouse's ability. There's many strange things that are happening today. Women can't do this. Women, for the longest, women couldn't even preach or speak or teach. Things such as that. We as men should not put them in a box. And at the same time, if your spouse is doing that, continue to be a man, but allow and encourage her to do that. Just because she's venturing out doesn't mean she's gonna make you less of a man. Being a man has nothing to do with your wealth. It doesn't. It does nothing to do with your wealth. And it talks about here in that same chapter, it says that men should not give their strength to women. So just because she's good at these things doesn't mean that you as a man give up what it means to be a man so she can do her thing. No, you still be a man. If you look up the word wealth, it speaks of virtue, valor, force. It kind of talks of things about being a soldier. So you don't hand that over. You don't give up your manhood just because your wife is venturing out and being a business entrepreneur. No, you still be a man. You don't give up your position as men. And you see that a lot where women do become, or the spouse, wife, do become an entrepreneur and doing great things. The men tend to be they tend to be humble and go into the background and no longer is seen as men. The wife takes dominance over because she's bringing in wealth. No, you continue to be a man. She can continue to be a wife as a business entrepreneur. You know, that should not happen. So I encourage you to read Psalms. So I keep saying Psalms, Proverbs 31. It is so much meat in there regarding the relationship, especially when it comes to what a wife or spouse should be doing. If anything, it was encouraging to me because it's like, you know, as I was reading this, I was like, oh, my wife does this, she does that. So it was encouraging. But also I wanted to do this because there's many people who believe that the wife should just be stuck at home, raising the children. Wife can't be in ministry. Women can't do this. Women can't do that. When Eve was made, the Lord did not restrict her on what she can help with. He just says, help him tend the garden. And if you know that garden, there were all types of beasts running around, all types of animals, lions, tigers, whatever was running around. She was to help with that, along with tending the garden. You know, we think of tending the garden, you know, different things. You got to pull up roots, plant things. She helped with all that. So everything that he did, she was there to help with. You know, so women can do just about as much things as men. There's a limit, but just for the most part, she's able to partake in just about everything. If you have any questions, I'm sorry that this didn't post for those who wanted to view. I had a few people ask where are we up. For some reason, we are not live on Facebook, but hopefully it still posts. If it does post, you have any questions, any comments, post those below, and we will do our best to get back to any questions or suggestions that you may have. Also, if life permits, we will be back again for Words for Christ next Sunday at 6 p.m. We will post what our topic may be, or if you guys have a suggestion or a topic that you would like us to talk about, whether marriage, different things in life, education, schooling, your job, business, anything that you would like us to talk about, please post those below, and we would love to discuss them. We love you guys, and take care. Bye-bye.